This is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today we're talking about how to know that you have the ideal partner just for you. So we're going to be talking about some different aspects of this, and these are things that I hear from my clients all the time, especially when they're starting a new relationship, kind of like, is this person for me? Is this the ideal person for me? And so I'm going to use that concept a lot, but I will tell you there's really not a 100% ideal person for you. And a lot of times, I think when people are younger, they're like, I want us to have exactly the same interest in everything. It's really not that fun, because really it's great to have a lot of interest the same. So I would say if you have at least 50 or 60% of your interests together that you both have an interest in, that is amazing. But there are some things that like your partner's just not as into as you are, not excited about, or whatever else. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of times like that is like a great asset. So it is a great asset that you have things in common that you love to do. And then there's things that you have that are different, because then you get to do them with someone else or another friend or your family or brother or sister or whatever it is. Because that's really the aspect of being a great partner, is not having to be around that person 24/7, 365, because people get tired. It's one of those, it's nice to have other people to kind of break up that monotony of like, I'm going to go have dinner with my brother. I'm going to go have dinner with my sister. I'm going to go do this. And so that is a great way to kind of break that up. But if you have a lot of things in common, it makes things much easier, but not everything has to be in common. So that's kind of like a fine line right there. So I will tell you that most of the time I hear from people is that maybe their ideal partner hasn't really grown up. And I'll hear that a lot, like my partner needs to grow up or is very immature in some areas. And this can be both men and women. And it's one of those, it's not necessarily them acting like an adult. It's like them truly growing up, recognizing issues from their childhood, resolving things from their early childhood, kind of working on themselves is a great way to do it. Not allowing like childhood traumas to take over their life every second of every day. It's one of those, someone who can really reflect on their past and kind of let things go, or, you know, like they were my friend and things didn't work out. And so, but, you know, I wish them the best. And that's kind of like a great grown-up way to do it. Sometimes when people are really childish, it can really get annoying. Because it's almost like a kid, like, you know, this is horrible and this is bad and they did this. And then it's kind of like, okay, there's no sense of like independence from anything. They're kind of like just stuck in that energy and not willing to move forward or kind of move into something different than what they've had in the past. Having a partner that's open and non-defensive, open to kind of like, let me hear your side of the story, and being non-defensive. Like sometimes when you tell somebody something, they're like, oh my gosh, they take offense to it. And it's like, I just want you to hear my side and hear what I'm trying to tell you, and really think about it, evaluate it, and really allow that to kind of like, am I willing to change this, or am I not willing to change this? That's a great way to kind of that grown-up perspective to look at things and kind of not being defensive about things. That's a great way to look at life. Not every situation has to be like this horrible incident that happened or anything like that, but being open, like sometimes if you're like, well, when you put your feet on the sofa, it really bothers me because your feet are dirty or whatever else, and not going, oh my gosh, it's you, it's that sort of thing. That's being childish when the other person starts attacking you. But if they go, okay, I can see your side of it, I'll wipe my feet off or I'll do something else, that's an adult way to kind of, or a grown-up way to kind of deal with that energy, better than just like being attacked by it. An ideal partner, I would say, is honest, and I would say most important, honest in communication. If they like something, if they don't like something, all of that kind of stuff. Honesty really builds in a relationship. And so it's one of those, like if you're building a relationship starting in the beginning of it, if someone's dishonest, you can kind of feel that. It's kind of like we have that little sense inside of us of like, something's not right about this. And sometimes it can be like they said it happened when they were 8 years old and it really happened when they were 9. But there are some times where you're going like, no, it's more than just that. And people tell me like, it's more than that. Yeah, sometimes it can be. Sometimes they're purposely being dishonest. They're purposely trying to confuse you with what's going on or how they felt about something. And usually it's a protective instinct, but I will tell you that's kind of going into that childish as well. Kind of like, this isn't really good. Being able to talk about things, even painful situations or things that did not go well, dealing with like my grandfather died and it really upset me. That's okay. It's okay to have those things that upset you in life. It's not okay not to move forward afterwards. The grown-up part is to kind of keep moving forward and striving to be the best person you can at any given time. My next one I get a lot is being respectful. Ideal partners, I will say, are very respectful of what's going on around them. They're very respectful of the other person's ideas and inspiration, even if they're not like 100% into it. So if you're like, I want to do this, and they're kind of like, well, explain it to me more. That's being helpful. That's kind of like being supportive. If they're like, oh no, you're not good at that, that's being disrespectful. And that can be overwhelming for our energy. It's one of those being open or being sensitive to other people's wants, needs, desires is a really good one. And opening up that ideal energy of being respectful about it and asking more questions. Well, what kind of art do you want to do? Or what do you want to do next? Or how do you want to do things? Can really open up that energy. If people are trying to control the other partner, that can be very threatening, very manipulative energy or behavior that's coming out. And that's where people kind of really need to set those healthy boundaries. And when someone's jumping over your boundaries, that's being disrespectful. And that's what you should ask. Like, why are you being disrespectful of my boundaries? And allow them to answer it. Allow them to come forward with that information. I will tell you, kind of an ideal partner can be someone who is has a great sense of humor. A great sense of humor can get you through some really hard times. And kind of knowing when to be humorous and when not to be humorous. Sometimes it's a really serious situation and being humorous at that time frame is not what you really need to hear. But there's times when it's like, okay, let's lighten the mood or kind of like dial this back down so that sensitive humor, that sense of humor can really bring in, like, alleviate the pressure, kind of allowing things to come forward, and can also help people deal with a very sensitive situation. And a lot of times, just by allowing us to laugh at things, it will lighten the mood very much so. So it's kind of like interesting. I will say, kind of an ideal partner is also very empathetic to what's going on around him. If it's something like, I had a client not too long ago as she had to deal with her sister who's very narcissistic, and her partner was not very empathetic towards that. He was kind of like, oh, it's not a big deal, instead of seeing it from her perspective, going like, I understand this is hard for you, but you can get this done, and kind of being a little encouraging, and kind of like getting her ready for this can be a great one. Kind of your emotional intuition can kind of really guide you well of how sensitive I need to be on this part, and or kind of like, do I need to be their cheerleader, or do I need to really push them to kind of get out of their normal thing? Like, I know your sister's normal, very harsh energy, but you can do this, or you only require really communicating these 4 or 5 things, and then that's it. There's nothing else that has to be said. So that can kind of help in that energy, kind of making us make strides forward, and in having a supportive person, an empathetic person, to kind of sound that out to someone else, or I'm not really sure how to say this, or this is what I feel like I need to say. Someone can really kind of help you push that energy in the right direction for you. Can be really a great one, and a great way to kind of really bring partners together. If you're ideal partners, you're going to be like not necessarily always on the same page, but can easily kind of change or manipulate your energy of like, yes, it's time to do this forward. One of the things I will say is an ideal partner is someone that you want to physically connect to. Holding hands, putting your arm around them, that sort of thing, and showing signs of affection. I will tell you that I get this from certain ethnic groups more than anything else, of wanting their partner to be affectionate towards them. It doesn't mean like we need to make out in public, but it kind of like holding my hand, putting your arm around me, letting me know that you've got my energy when we're out and about, can be something that's very positive, and it can also kind of set that energy up for both of y'all to kind of be able to be vulnerable with each other. If you want to be sexually active with someone at some point, that's totally your thing. But it's one of those, if you don't feel comfortable in them touching you and that sort of thing, and holding your hand or putting their arm around you and supporting your energy, that makes it much harder. So it's one of those, you've got to have that communication and that touch with somebody else to kind of bring this energy in much easier, much lighter than what you would normally think it would be. That's a great way to look at this. I will say kind of my last one is kind of validating how other people feel is a very clairsensitive energy, and not everybody has that clairsensitive energy to the same amount. But as long as you're open to kind of what's coming up next, things will get easier and a lot lighter to deal with. I think that's one of the amazing things to understand. So let's do some angel cards and get us a little bit deeper insight into qualities that we would hope to have in our ideal partner. This one is the one popping up first is coming in, and this is Jupiter, and this is the abundance. This is the abundance of having great communication, the abundance of having someone who can understand your energy and really work to bring out the best in you, and you bring out the best in them. That is some of the best qualities. Next, this is Scorpio, and this is kind of investigating how they deal with life, investigating how they deal with their childhood, investigating how they are dealing with people that are rivals at work or competition in some way. Can give you a great insight into other people's energy. The next one is the 10th house, and this is the authority. We have a great authority of kind of bringing, as we start dating someone, kind of bringing them through some of these things, kind of looking at how they deal with a lot of these issues, and kind of really working on like, how do we work through some of these energies? How do we deal with them? And how do we get a deeper insight? Does that make sense? Like kind of watching how they deal with things, not necessarily judging, watching it. And then that kind of gives you an idea of like, how mature are they, or how much of an ideal person are they really for you? And looking at that from good eyes is a great one. The 8th house is all about the mystery. Like I said, kind of that mystery is solved in the investigation of kind of like looking at things. But if things kind of like don't feel right, or kind of like quirky, like something's not right here, ask questions and watch how they react to your questions. That is going to give you a great insight into how ideal partner they are for you. The next one is our 6th house, and this is sustainability. We all want a relationship that's going to last. No one wants a short-term relationship. There are a few, but I will say if you're looking for a long-term relationship, sustainability is the best, and that is having enough common ground to kind of bring things together, but enough differences so that you're not always around each other all the time constantly, because that kind of brings the spice of life into everybody and kind of really gives us a great insight into what we want to do or how we want to do this. This can be a great one to kind of give us that deeper insight into things. Our second to the last card is the Sun, and this is all about the source. We have the sources around us to kind of take that time. Don't jump into a new relationship too quickly. Make sure you're taking time to look at all the sources around them, the input of people around them, the coworkers, their family, their friends, and how does that affect their energy. Our last one is Mars, and this is about being in motion. Be in motion. If this person is the ideal person for you, start to move forward in that energy. If they're not, make sure you're backing it up or getting out of that situation. Not everybody is ideal for everybody else. And a lot of people are like, well, I broke up with my last boyfriend and he just got married. It doesn't mean anything. They found the right person eventually, and you will too. It's not a race. It's definitely not a race to find the right person. It's finding the right person for you that you can grow with and kind of keep that energy moving with. That is most important, and more than anything else, I would say. I thank you so much for joining me today, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.